Welcome everyone. Welcome everyone to the Live Magic Q&A Tea Party. This is me, your host, Madam Pamita. I'm here with you guys. So excited. This is the Live Magic Q&A Tea Party. It meets up every Sunday at 5 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Mountain, 7 p.m. Central, and 8 p.m. Eastern. It's the Spell Squad Clubhouse. What is the Spell Squad? Well, if you want to find out about the Spell Squad, you got to go to spellsquad.com, sign up to join. It's just really basically signing up for my newsletter. That's the thing, but it brings you so much more than that. You'll get to come into the clubhouse. You can join us live here and ask questions about magic and spirituality and divination, tarot, all kinds of things like that. Spell work and spiritualism, all kinds of things we delve into. You'll also get, if you sign up, a free 33-page book, 7 Secrets to Supercharge Your Spell Work. So it's a win-win. And then you get a newsletter where I send you goodies every once in a while, and I send you the links and reminders for our Spell Squad Clubhouse meetings here, the Live Magic Q&A. So it's really a fun thing to be a part of. If you're watching this on YouTube, go ahead and sign up and you can join us for free next week. It's a really fun thing. We get together, we answer questions about magic. It's not upselling you to something else. It's just introducing you to new people that you might want to follow, and us answering your questions, you asking the questions and us answering those questions. In case you stumbled upon this and you don't know who I am Madam Pamita, and you can find me online at parlorofwonders.com. You can also find me on Instagram at Madam Pamita. You can also find me on YouTube at youtube.com/Madam Pamita. I have a podcast called Magic and the Law of Attraction, which you can find at magicandthelawofattraction.com. I have a couple of blogs. One you can find on my site, which is kind of a general folk magic blog, and that you can find by going, and spiritualism. I talk a lot about spirit guides and stuff like that as well. You can find that by going to Parlor of Wonders and going to instruction and looking for magic blog. And I have another blog, a new blog that I'm kind of encouraging everyone to check out. It's called Baba Yaga's Cottage, and it's about Slavic magic. So if you want to find that, it's on Patheos Pagan. But if you want a direct link to get there, you just go to Baba Yaga's Cottage. It's spelled BABAYAGAS cottage.com. Okay, so go check that out. It's all about Slavic magic. I just put up an amazing article about red eggs and what are red eggs? How are they important? How do we use them magically? What are they all about? They're called krishonki in Ukrainian, the colored eggs that aren't the pesanki. I bet you know something about that, James. Do you know about pesanki?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. That's when you started talking all Slavic. I'm like, ooh, we've already got a lot of things to talk about.
I know. Let me introduce you to my guest. So my guest this week is James Jacob Pierri of AusetGypsy. You are in the East Coast, Pennsylvania?
I am. I'm on the border of Pennsylvania, New Jersey, right on the Delaware and Lehigh Valley merges. I actually live on the other side of the river in New Jersey.
Yeah.
And I have a shop in historic Easton, Pennsylvania. But hello, Spell Squad.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me down here tonight, this afternoon, this evening, wherever you are.
It's evening for us, early evening. It's still light outside for us. But you know what? That's my family. My family's from Philly. My mom said my Ukrainian family's from Philly. Yeah, so we got something in common. Yeah, this is like totally where my family's from. My mom's side of the family's from, or my dad's side's family's from California, but my mom's side's from Philly. And
so you're Ukrainian and Californian.
Yeah, so I'm Ukrainian and like Celtic English on my dad's side and Ukrainian on my mom's side. So I've got all kinds of good magic from both of those strains. So let me tell them a little bit about you. Enough about me. They'll know about me.
Yeah.
So
you do that, I'll spill the tea.
That's right. That's right. We've got our tea. I have made very special tea this week. I made special tea. My special tea is special tea. I made fresh ginger, lemon, and honey tea. Very healthy, very good. That was my friend Honoreo. He's like, we did a thing this week on Instagram called tarot in place. If you're sheltering in place and staying in place, you can tarot in place. If you do the hashtag tarot in place, you'll find out all about it. And we're kind of extending it. We were just going to do it on Saturday, but everyone was having so much fun doing it that we're going to extend it a little bit. So you can kind of get a free mini tarot reading from me and a bunch of other readers by doing the hashtag tarot in place on Instagram. So let me talk about you. I know about all my stuff. Let's talk about you. So this week, my guest is James Jacob Pierri of AusetGypsy. He was born and raised in the old world charm of Hoboken, New Jersey. And
yes, the mythological city of Hoboken, New Jersey.
You and Frank Sinatra, right?
Oh, my grandmother went to school with him. She said she was a freshman. He was absent.
That's funny. That's funny. So you were born to an Italian father and a Yugoslavian-Gypsy mother. And
kind of. Yeah. That's why the Slavic thing, when you brought it up, really got my attention, because it's rare to meet other, people who understand that Slavic side of it. Yeah, my mom's family are Aromani, or Vlach. There's so many different ways to say it depending on what country you're from, but Adriatic. They're from the Balkans. But I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, it's fascinating. I'm doing a lot of research right now, because a little secret, I'm doing a book. I'm working on a new book, and I'm doing a bunch of research, about Slavic magic and Slavic spirituality and so on. And I'm finding out all these ethnicities within, these countries we have. It's fascinating. There's a lot of different ethnicities. So everybody knows the Romani in Romania, but they're kind of more aware of that. But they don't know about these other really magical ethnic groups that are in these countries that the borders often change.
Yes. Exactly.
And Yugoslavia is a great example of that. So I'm not only learning about my Ukrainian stuff, and I'm, focusing on there. I'm getting into the Baltic states, like Lithuania and Estonia, and I'm getting down into the southeastern European countries, the ones quote unquote Balkan countries, but the countries down there, Bulgaria, Albania, I'm learning all about, because there's a lot in that whole area. It's a very interesting kind of unique blend. We know a lot about Scandinavian magic. We know a lot about, these Celtic magic. We see a lot about those, but we don't see a lot in English about these other Eastern European and Southeastern European countries and their magic. There just doesn't seem to be a lot of information out there about it. So I'm having a ball discovering what I'm discovering and knowing.
If you need help, let me know, and I can't wait to see what you've come up with already. It's so true, and it's what sets my story and my path slightly askew from a lot of other people in doing what I do. Now, look, I grew up here in America, in Hoboken, New Jersey. We didn't live in the mountains in a hut, but you're so right what you said. I had a great cousin, Jack. He was 90. Well, he was 101 when he died, but we had this conversation when he was 96. And he said, where we come from, he's like, you can't, because my grandmother on my mother's side used to just call us all a bunch of gypsies, and we would laugh. And we said, well, what is this? And he explained, he's like, well, look, there's a lot of different groups where we come from. He's like, it's complicated. There's a lot of different groups. And you're right. More people in America are completely, or what they think, acquainted with the Romany people as gypsies. 9 times out of 10, most people are really acquainted with like Esmeralda from Hunchback of Notre Dame gypsy, which is romantic. Please, I love her, but that's a medieval dramatization of that era. Most gypsy women I know today don't wear, Esmeralda's outfit. They're wearing Don Caron and, and whatnot. But there are so many different groups, and there's an old saying that goes, although all the Roma are gypsy, not all gypsies are Roma, because it does break down into these more subcategories where, to the untrained eye, you think these people are all the same because they're nomads, they travel, that they have a certain nomadic way of life. And that's what they were explaining about where we come from. Now, this cousin that I'm talking about, he worked for NASA developing the engine fuel for the first spaceship that went up to the moon. So not everybody was a fortune teller, but did explain that my great-grandfather and his father used to go with their fathers and travel trading animals throughout Greece and Italy. Because when I asked him what we were, he's like, Italian. I'm like, wait, how are we Italian? I thought we were something else. And he goes, well, we just say Italian because it's easier. That was kind of the way. But my great-grandmother on that side was a famous fortune teller in Hoboken in her day. And she looked the part. And, you know, she was wild red hair, sound familiar? And vivacious personality. People loved her. She had the heavy accent. She loved spiritualism, you know, the seances, the cards. And they owned a bar. So, you know, they owned property. And so, you know, everybody would come to the bar. She'd have seances up in her apartment. You know, it was like that. And then on my father's side are the Italians, like pure 100%, all of them Italian. My father and my aunt, his sister, were the first people to break away from marrying Italians ever in the lineage of their Italian heritage. So I grew up with a lot in Hoboken at that time when I was growing up. It was a lot of old world charm, all the superstitions, all the beliefs. Even though I went to Catholic school, you had to know all your Catholic saints, but then you also had to know all of your gods and goddesses. And, you know, the running story that was always cute was that statue of the Virgin Mary in the front of the house where she's with her arms open, but then in the back of the house in the garden was a statue of Venus naked like this. And when you're a kid and ask these questions like, well, you know, they're like, oh, it's the same thing, but she can do what she wants in her backyard. She can be naked. You know, you're told these funny things. You know, it's certainly a different way to grow up.
I love that. You know, it's so fascinating to me. Like also too, like that understanding, like there's such a simplistic understanding. I think it's becoming more, there's a more awakened kind of consciousness now, but I think back, you know, 40, 50 years ago, you know, you're Italian. Well, are you, you know, when we know people that are Italian, when you know people are Italian, are you Sicilian? Are you Neapolitan? Are you Roman? Right. What kind of Italian are you? There's a real, the whole thing with Italy in and of itself is a whole other thing, because Italy was not unified. It was these little city-states.
Kingdom states, yeah.
Yeah, that definitely had different characteristics. The people looked different, different languages. This idea of a unified Italy is a very recent concept. So
I just had this conversation.
Yeah.
Bravo.
So like, you know, like the drummer in my band, the Neptunas, my girl band from the 90s, I'm Sicilian. And I have my other good friend, Chelsea, I'm Sicilian. They're like, you know, they're like, I'm not Italian, I'm Sicilian. It's different.
Yeah,
you know,
of course.
So it's understanding that, like, when you really do dig in deeper into your heritage and you feel and you know, you do see the different ways of folk magic in those different regions and things like that. It's super fascinating.
Yeah. Oh,
but
totally.
I want to talk about what you're doing now. So you do tarot reading, you do palmistry, you do astrology. You like hit all the things. You get all of the things. Plus, you were, before we got on here, you were telling me you have a shop as well that you sell books and you sell magical supplies and all of that. So you do magic, and you also have developed not one, but 2 new decks that are coming out. That is so bloody exciting. That's amazing.
Thank you. It's been a long time coming. With the 2 decks, I'm making up for a lot of lost time. You know, they should have come out a long time ago, but life got in the way and you live, you know? It's been a very long journey. I will try to sum this up and answer all of those questions in the most briefest synopsis I can try to do. AusetGypsy began over 20 years ago. It was a nickname given to me by a friend of mine who is a manager where I worked, believe it or not, at Islands of Adventure in Universal Studios, Orlando. Now, my experience with tarot, palmistry, astrology, the occult, and metaphysics comes from home. Always, ever since even before I could read, really loved and obsessed with it. And because it was in the background. My aunt was a hairdresser and an astrologer. My mom loved dream interpretation. My grandmother was into numerology and horoscopes. And we had my great-grandmother who was this famous fortune teller. Unfortunately, I never met her. She died long before I was born. And the beliefs of all those things were still lingering because Hoboken was this old world place still. I'm not going to say everybody completely believed. I always say Italians have this very strong philosophy on beliefs towards these things, and it goes like this. You believe out of respect because it might work, it may not. So, all right.
Same with my mom. It's so funny because, like, my mom was always like, oh, this stuff is out there, but she never, it was like stuff that was in the background.
Yeah.
So the stories that she told me about my grandmother doing wax healing, story about, you know, my grandmother working with a Motanka doll and doing all these other things, it was kind of like, that's just what she did because she was from the old country.
Right.
But my mom bought me my first tarot deck when I was 10 years old. She did not have that fear of it. It was like, what do you want? And I'm like, I want the tarot deck. And so she bought it for me. She didn't care.
You know, we didn't even use tarot decks. We used the old-fashioned Italian playing cards that look, which of course, if you know tarot history of it, came from tarot and turned into playing cards. But we used those. I didn't get my first Rider-Waite deck until a million years later. I always taught with it because people were familiar. But I personally love pre-Rider-Waite decks. And the funny thing was, I always call the Rider-Waite deck from there on cheat sheets, lovingly, affectionately, sincerely, you know, with a big smile. And I said, we didn't have that. You had to really develop your intuition. You had to know the traditional symbols. It was a different way of doing it. And, you know, the people I learned from growing up, they were old-fashioned. They were blunt people. New Age and all of that I discovered in my later teen years. The 90s were a magical place. And, you know, it took me back. I kind of giggled a little bit. I'm like, wow, these people have all these strange superstitions that I didn't know. You can't buy yourself a tarot deck. You can't do this. You can't do that. And I found it amusing because where I came from, there was no such things as a New Age shop. You know, the witches we knew looked more like Kim Novak in Bell Book and Candle than, you know, gothic garb with thick eyeliner or, you know, looking like that. And they were just normal day people, you know. And so where I got to learn was a different place. And the first deck I ever bought myself was the Cagliostro deck when I was living in Miami, because I accidentally opened it up and the guy jumped over the counter and started screaming at me that I tainted it. I'm like, I just came back from the beach. I just took a shower. I'm clean. I didn't know what he meant. And he's like, you have to buy it. I'm like, fine. You know, the Empress card looked like, you know, what's the actress's name? Claudette Bardot or something like that. And I loved it. So I'm like, fine, I'll buy these because they look like the old-fashioned playing cards I was used to. That, which is a fantastic segue to the beginning of my story, got me the job at Universal Studios, because up till that point, I was in school. I was studying at the Florida College of Natural Health and Holistic Sciences. I was doing anatomy, physiology, Ayurvedic medicine, aromatherapy, herbology, massage therapy. Again, the 90s, all in a nutshell. And lots of Enya. And then when I got back into Orlando, previous to that, like, while I was in school, I used to go read cards on the street over on Espanola Way, because people, the New Age stores, wouldn't hire me. One store wouldn't hire me based on my astrology chart, and the other place wouldn't hire me because I was a guy. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna have to do this on my own like usual. So I went back to the street and did it there and, you know, made a living. So
you were better off, by the way, doing it that way. Just saying, you know what I mean? Like, you don't need someone taking 50% of your money.
I'm easy going. I'm like, all right, they don't want me. I won't go there. But then when we got back to Orlando, I, you know, went around to my usual haunts, and someone there who was a really, you know, well-renowned palmist in Orlando said, you know, I can't hire you here, but there's a place opening up, and I know a woman at Universal Studios. Now, Universal Studios was just opening up Islands of Adventure. Like, it wasn't even done being built. And I got to meet the owner of the tent, we'll call it. And she didn't want to hire me because I was young and I was a guy, until she saw the card deck I pulled out, which was the Cagliostro. And I put my own little notes and symbols on it. And she used Austrian playing cards. She's like, you're too young to use that deck. And what are these symbols? You drew your own symbols on here? I'm like, yeah, absolutely. She's like, you're hired. I was one of the first people she hired. Now, it was a big deal because that tent, it wasn't just like a shade tent. It was a structure. It was a beautiful, like genie bottle looking tent inside. It was in the Lost Continent, in Islands of Adventure. But when Islands of Adventure first opened up in '99, it was such a spectacle and it was a huge deal. And we were the first fortune tellers to work in a theme park again since Walt Disney had outlawed them in the 50s with the advent of Disneyland. So Universal, always wanting to do the opposite of Disney, came up with this concept, and it was so incredible. We got to design our own costumes. They were these elaborate gypsy-esque Sinbad, because the village was called Sinbad's Village. And the first 2 months, we did nothing but do soft openings to celebrities. And then because I was young and looked good in the costume, along with a crony of mine, that's what put me in the public eye professionally as a reader. I was on every international magazine, newspaper, television, news, everything. And, you know, this was before the internet. So that was the old fashioned way of doing things. You know, you had to get in front of a camera, right? And so that just happened for me. I got picked up by national event agencies and then just started doing major events, and it just exploded from there. And then years later, you know, I still had AusetGypsy, which AusetGypsy gets its name from Universal Studios, because we had to start wearing name tags, and I didn't want to wear a name tag because my name is James. I'm like, I'm gonna look like the guy who sweets. And my manager, Faria, and that was her real name, was like, no, you gotta wear it though, they're gonna take money out of your paycheck. So I'm like, no. So I came to work one day and she had a little box, and I opened it, and it was my name tag, and it said AusetGypsy. I'm like, what is this? She's like, you love Isis so much. She's your muse. But Isis is a girl's name. She's like, so I looked up variations and found the ancient Egyptian pronunciation is Auset. And you're a gypsy. You're our gypsy. So it's AusetGypsy. Happy birthday. And then a friend of mine, she's like, you wanted an exotic name? You got it. You got the most exotic name. And then a friend of mine was in branding and marketing, and they did my first logo, my first website. And I'm like, I don't even know what a website is. And they threw me out in the world and said, go for it. And then I ended up going for it. And I ended up doing all sorts of television, radio. I had horoscope columns in international fashion magazines, and zigzagged all over this world. And here we are.
Here we are. And you've got a shop. And then you said, do I dare ask? You said you had samples of the decks that you're going to be doing.
I do. The tarot deck has been a long time coming. I created the concept way back in the 90s and just never had a chance to produce it. I put a few out on my own. And then when I revisited this idea and pitched it to the publishing companies, I realized my style of art was very classical. And I'm like, we're in the 21st century. We probably need to talk to a younger demographic. And so I came across a fantastic young up-and-coming artist named Becca Stotzenberg here in Lehigh Valley, and fell in love with her work because it was this unique hybrid between like Disney and anime. And I just loved it. It was these perfect romantic features that would be perfect to bring my vision into the 21st century, because we have a big idea of where we're going with this whole thing beyond the tarot deck. So I came up with all the concepts, and she took my concepts and illustrated them in her style. And I have 3, there's more, but I only have 3 left because we sold all the other ones. We went to a Comic-Con and we wanted to do a little market research and see if we were on the right track. And the public loved it. And the publishing company, Schiffer Red Feather, we've been in works with this for the whole last year. And the AusetGypsy Tarot drops spring of 2021. But
so exciting.
Here's the Devil card.
Oh, that's so cool. That's so great.
Well, we couldn't decide if we wanted, what was the devil going to be? And she was like, we should make her a woman. I'm like, no, this is not the climate right now to call a woman the devil. Let's not go that way. And we laughed. And then I was like, maybe we should, you know, make him a sexy guy. And then her fiance at that time, they're not together anymore, unfortunately, said, why can't it be both? And we were like, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
And then the way I judge a tarot deck is by the death card. It's got to be perfectly romantic. It can't look heavy metal gory. It can't be so flippant that it steers so far away from what death is, but it's got to be romantic. And she nailed, and I'll tell a funny story when you see the illustration in a moment. She nailed my vision. Like, this is what I drew, and then she brought it to life in her way.
Oh, that's gorgeous. That's gorgeous.
And the reason the ballerina is in there, I'm like, Becca, why did you put a ballerina? She's like, because you said you wanted dancers. I was thinking Isadora Duncan. I know you know who Isadora Duncan is, but she was 20 when we started this project, and she didn't know Isadora Duncan. She just thought ballerinas. And I was like, they're beautiful. They're like entranced. He's playing this bone violin. Yeah. All right, they work.
I love it. I love it. Those are
And then
gorgeous.
the other one we have left is the lovers.
Oh, it's beautiful. When is it now? It's going to come out. What's it going to be called? The AusetGypsy Beautiful.
Yeah, the AusetGypsy Tarot.
Yeah.
It tells. Here's the funny thing. Over all these years, with all of my friends who are authors, big selling authors and tarot card book writers, everyone kept saying, James, when are you going to write your book? I'm like, what am I going to write that's going to contribute? You guys have said it all. And I made the joke saying, besides, my life is more of a comic book than it is a novel. And then it dawned on me, that's right. It is a comic book. I'm a character in a comic book. And I'm like, I'm not going to tell my story in a book. I'm going to tell my story in what I do. I'm going to tell my story through the tarot. So the AusetGypsy Tarot deck is about the AusetGypsy going through his whole life. And you can see other examples of it on my Instagram page or my Facebook page. And, you know, I keep posting sneak peeks here and there. So, you know,
great.
to whet the palate. But thank you.
It's so great. Now we're going to get to the questions. Let's get to some questions. And before we do that, you were saying that at the end of our show today that you would do a little mini tarot reading for somebody.
Would love to.
We'll pick somebody. So what emoji or word or word? We need an emoji and a word. So if they want to put an emoji, they can put an emoji. If they want to put the word, they can put the word. Do you want them to say that they're interested in being in the raffle?
It's a no-brainer. The crystal ball emoji.
The crystal ball emoji, and then the word crystal ball. So either write the word crystal ball,
that emoji inspired my logo.
By the way, that's my drag name, Crystal Ball.
Fierce.
Copyrighted. No, it's not. That's my drag divination.
Well, Pleasant and I did an interview for my podcast show that still has yet to come out, but we were laughing because we both use hashtag fortune teller realness.
Yeah.
And we had a conversation about how the word fortune teller offends people. And
I'm totally about reclaim. I know. I reclaim that word all the time. I'm like, I'm a fortune teller. I do fortune telling. Just like you're reclaiming gypsy, I'm reclaiming fortune teller. I'm totally down with that.
I also took I studied at a seminary. I studied alternative religions and ethnic religions. And, so we did talk about all these different histories. And the funny thing is, the Roma gypsies, the Aromani people that I know and that I'm from, when gypsy is used in Europe as a really bad slur, it's like saying white trash. But the thing is, in America, I have to remind everyone, I'm like, sometimes in American English, one word has many diverse meanings. I'm like, and even amongst the Roma and the Vlach and the Aromani people that I know, whoever considers themselves gypsy, here in America, it's not seen as the slur, unless you take an ethnic course in college and then, they fill your head with a lot of stuff. It really, we always use it like the Stevie Nicks way of it, like the gypsy, the dreamer, the drifter, the poet, the artist, the romantic.
It's very romantic. Exactly. I think of it as being very romantic. Well, do you want to jump into some questions?
Yeah.
You ready?
Please.
All right.
Let's do it.
So Nina has a question. What is a glamour spell and how do you do it? Do you ever do glamour spells? You know about glamour spells?
Talk about it all the time because I always use it as an example of like celebrity media. I'm like, celebrity media is media. Like PR people are the best sorcerers because they know how to create a glamour to make you believe that this mortal human being is more than so. So we can use the modern PR rep as the sorcerer or sorceress that takes a normal human being and really just puts this glamour that makes us all believe they are bigger than life. So glamours, yeah, absolutely. You know, sometimes you need to put a glamour over yourself to either keep away certain prying eyes so that people can't see the true source, or sometimes you put a glamour over a specific thing to keep the evil eye and the bad mojo away, so that until it's strong enough or ready, that it's just kind of protected. And then, you know, look, I put glamour on before I came on your show, you know, did my eyes up, fixed my hair, put on a little jewelry. You know, RuPaul says it best, you know, we're born naked, the rest is drag. But in our world, we can say the rest is a glamour because we do this to glamour the person, to enamor them, to get their attention, to take their attention away from where, you know, what we're doing.
Well, it's so very interesting because you brought up a great point about glamour work. Glamour spells are meant to shift a perception. So I think of like the queen in Snow White, the witch queen in Snow White, when she becomes the old lady that's very, there's an innocence about the old lady. Oh, she's just a little old lady. She's not a powerful queen. She doesn't mean me any harm. That's a glamour. She's doing a glamour. So glamour, as we think of the word glamour, we think of it making ourselves more beautiful, making ourselves more attractive. It's just creating a perception of whatever kind you want. And even traditional glamour work may not even be about a person. It may be that you see a castle over there that doesn't exist.
Yes.
That's exactly. A glamour, you know? So it's about shifting perception. I think, you know, it's so funny because when we talk about glamour magic, like one of my favorite glamour spells is an invisibility spell when I feel like I don't want to get pulled over by the cops, right? not that I'm breaking any laws, but I have a weird
Ladies
paranoia.
and gentlemen, Pamita's on the lam.
But it's like, you know, I don't want a ticket. I don't want the fix-it ticket for my, you know, busted taillight or whatever. You know what I mean? I don't want the ticket. And then,
you just want to get from point A to point B unnoticed.
I want to slip by and yet I have a red car. So I do glamour spells. So cops, you don't see me. And I had a friend who was always getting tickets all the time. And I said, girl, you need to do a glamour spell. You just focus your intention and focus and say, these aren't the droids you're looking for. That's a glamour spell, right? These aren't the droids you're looking for, when clearly they are the droids that they're looking for.
Move along.
Exactly. So I take my red car and I put a little glamour over it that cops, I'm invisible to cops who want to, you know, give me a ticket. And it works, you know? So
but here's another point though. Okay, it's like love spells. Sure, you can put it on, but what happens when you have to take it off? I have yet to see a spell book written about how to break other spells and end other spells. Maybe you and I need to write a book together. And because it's true, one time I played with invisibility. Now, of course, you don't like, you know, completely disappear out of thin air, but it's almost as if nobody sees you. I couldn't figure out how to take it off. And all of a sudden I was losing opportunities. I lost a relationship. All of a sudden I was like, wait, I've never been invisible. I'm loud. This is my indoor voice. Why is nobody hearing me? And it took me months to figure out how to break this.
Yeah, I figure it's like, to me, it's like something maybe I just sort of naturally know how to bring it up and pull it down. Because I'm obviously not invisible, but I'm very selective about who I'm invisible to. And I also use it can also come in very handy when you're walking. Let's say you're walking and you don't want to be bothered by people or you don't want to be noticed. It's not a spell like an incantation. It's not a spell where you take supplies. It's wild magic. You're just doing it with your mind. And it is the closest I can come you know, pop culture reference is that
Yeah.
Jedi mind trick where you're saying
Yeah.
these aren't the droids you're looking for. And it's like, how much do you believe and how forceful you can be with your intention to then have someone think what you want them to think? And I think that's a skill and a practice, you know, that's the glamour magic I do. You can also do glamour magic though with candle spells and things like that.
Yep.
If your intention is, I want to be more attractive, I want people to see me as a successful person, or whatever your intention is. So yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one.
Love candle magic.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I got that book coming out in October. I'm very excited about that. All right.
Not good to get it.
All right. So let's see. We got questions. Okay, here's a question. It's kind of a question directed at me, but I think you can have a very good answer to this. I have a new candle that came out that is a mermaid candle. Nobody has a mermaid candle.
I love it because I love mermaids.
Yeah.
So I went nuts when I saw it.
Yeah. So could you use, the question is, could you use a mermaid candle for worship of Venus / Aphrodite? But also, what else could you use a mermaid candle for? What would you, do you think you could use a mermaid candle for Venus, Aphrodite, or what else?
Well, because it would be that allure. It would be the essence of, are we talking earthly Aphrodite, heavenly Aphrodite, like Venus Urania? But the mermaid, yeah, look at what the mermaid absolutely symbolizes. Something that should not be in the middle of a place that's impossible. And, you know, long before Disney put out The Little Mermaid and mermaids were all cute and, you know, doing things that they were supposed to, mermaids were not that. The mermaids I knew and loved growing up were somewhat dangerous and alluring and tempting, and you know, they're connected to the sea. So then you have all those sea goddesses. Venus is a sea goddess. You have you know, Isis of the sea. You have Yemaya. You have you know, Thetis.
Mary, Star of the Sea. I mean, there's all the sea versions. Yeah.
You have the creation, the feminine of the sea that is alluring and beckoning. Like when you go to the beach, there's a tug that you just want to throw yourself in. And what does the person want to use the mermaid candle for, though?
Yeah. So, they're talking about using it as a offering to Aphrodite or Venus. I think that would be a great offering. And if you're doing that candle to connect more deeply to that goddess, it's a perfect way to do that. But you can also use it for that. Did you say that when we talk about glamour, talk about that magnetism of pulling someone forward, like a siren song pulling you in? It was a great way to work with that.
The unknown. Look at what the mermaid is. She's part human, part animal of the ocean. So that would be that nice, beautiful connection.
Yeah, so good.
Love it.
I love that candle too. I'm in love with that
Me
candle.
too.
It's such a gorgeous candle. I always have my kind of like my favorites, and then that's like my new favorite. Like my Egyptian queen was often my favorite, but I don't know, that mermaid is pretty enticing.
I love her.
Okay, we got a really tricky guy, Jim Barker, my palmistry friend, is asking you a trick question about palmistry.
And I'll give
Are you ready for it?
I've been called worse.
Okay, so Jim wants to know, I had a client with a double simian line, and I would like to know your take on that formation. So I guess you'd have to explain what a simian line is, and then what would you say?
That's
I can't even answer this.
That is, I respect the question, and he's a pretty intelligent kind of guy I see here. That becomes almost medical technical. I'll be honest, that goes outside of the scope of the way I was taught palmistry. But because I knew anatomy and physiology, I know that there's a lot of discussion behind that can become a little bit dangerous due to the matter of the subject. So maybe he and I could have that discussion in private. And just because of our sensitive climate these days and politically correct climate, maybe we'll go back to that question, like password. Pass.
Well, I can tell you what I know from, maybe I know a little bit more than I know, because from hanging out with Jim and doing the tarot and palmistry mashup with him, when he's talked about like the simian line, and he's saying that in like traditionally that's like the murderer's line,
right,
and so that's probably the politically correct thing that you don't want to dive into, or incorrect thing that you don't want to dive into, but he likes to reclaim it as not that very simplistic way, but go into deeper. And it would be a fascinating thing for you guys to have that discussion, but someone who's a double one, it's
maybe we can do a special episode where the three of us can chat.
It would be so great. Palmistry.
And I would love it.
Palmistry conversations with Madam Pamita sitting in the background and knowing nothing, but
you see, and I'm glad you brought it up. Maybe I'm too shy, but it is an intense conversation, and I do want to have it, but because it borders on psychoses and it does border into those realms of possible violence, we have a wide audience tonight, so I would think let's save that for a special night where we can label that as tonight live on Madam Pamita, that very special episode.
The double simian line. Oh my gosh. All right. All right. So we have a question. Okay. So Margaret has a question, and I'm going to explain to you guys that are first time here, that's particular for yourself. So we're not answering questions that are particular for your personal situation. We're asking questions that are generally beneficial to learn about other things. So Margaret had a question about herbal remedies for a particular issue in her astrology chart. So doesn't, but let's just talk in more general ways. Herbs and astrology. Herbs and astrology. What do you want to say about it?
That's like opening up a whole chest. I love it. You know, when there's so many different places in the astrology chart that you can look for specific health. And, you know, that's where this becomes a really broad conversation as well, too. And I don't want to sound vague, but I do want to be able to talk about the diverse ways to look at it. So I won't say what specific herbs should go with specific signs, but there's multiple ways to look at it. So I encourage everybody to go and explore it. And, you know, research for yourself what gets your attention now, maybe saved for later, or, you can look at the moon signs and what herbs are growing or should be cut during that specific moon phase. If you do go by solar astrology and just the sun, we go by the seasons, of course. So depending on what region you're in right now, the natural herbs available to you should be the ones to take. If you're looking for something more exotic and not so local specific, and you've got to kind of go out there and dig a little, you know, of course you can go to any homeopathy herbal store, you know, acupuncturists, Chinese medicine, their pharmacies are incredible with herbs we can't even pronounce. And, you know, you're not going to find in the Badia section at the supermarket. And when using herbs, which I do, I'm glad she asked that. I do that. I mean, I even have, the tea I'm drinking is my AusetGypsy Mojo Chai, but I even have, my lighting is too bright, darn it. I do suggest herbs. I have a whole mixed herbs over on that wall and then teas on this wall to my left, so that when my clients come down, when assessing their chart, when doing their cards, when seeing their palm, what is important for them now to have in their body, and, you know, the nutrients of either the season, their moon sign, where their afflictions are, like when certain stars are blocking each other, squaring each other, to help make that easier through the body, because as above, so below. If we can heal from within, we can heal from without.
I think there's also, like, what comes to mind for me as somebody who's not an astrologer, but I say I know enough astrology to get me into trouble, you know. I think of like in general, if you were maybe, let's say, for example, I can think of a great example. I have a friend who's always struggling with money, and it's because he has no earth in his chart. Not an earth, nothing in an earth sign. And he's always struggling with money. Very spiritual, he's very kind, he's very creative, he's very brilliant, he's very talented, but never can hold on to money or make money. So in that case, what I would do, not knowing about, if I were coming from that place of like, oh, well, how can I fix this herbally? I would say get Cunningham's Encyclopedia of Magical Herbs.
Excellent.
Which breaks down the herbs by their element. So you have fire herbs, earth herbs, water herbs, breaks it down by planet, breaks it down by all those things. And I would say, okay, he needs to drink a tea with more earth energy herbs in it or a tea to bring in more money. But if you wanted to get into the astrology of it, something that's going to fix the part of his chart that needs fixing. And that's a very simplistic way of looking at a chart. I mean, I'm not getting into like progressions and all progressed chart and blah, blah, blah. I'm not even doing that.
You don't need all of that for doing something like this. The material's right there to be suggestive, to see how that helps. And you have to experiment and, see what works and what doesn't. And no, I love your approach. And that's exactly the way to do it. It doesn't always have to be, the astrology I learned growing up was a very simple folk astrology. And then when I went on later in life and really pursued studying it and going to the astrology conferences and stuff, I realized all these really super smart people who know a lot of math are really just taking the simplicity, slicing it into thin slivers, and just coming right back to where we started. So it works for them. Some people like the puzzle. I like to just, dig into the meat.
No math for me.
Yeah,
exactly. I'm not a math girl. Like, I can do birth. I can look at a birth chart. I can know. I know the planets. I know the houses. I know what's going. But all I really want to know is like, where's someone's sun? Where's someone's moon? What's their rising sign? Maybe I want to know their Venus and their Mars. But those basic three will tell me a lot about the personality, and the rest of it is kind of whatever.
And that's the thing too. Astrology is different from all over the world. Like to an Italian astrologer, it would be more important to find out the person's moon sign than the sun sign, because the moon will tell you what that person's temperament and feelings are really like. The sun is just your stage persona. So you would look for the moon, the sun, and the ascendant. Those are the first three things that I look for, and that will sum up a lot. Now, of course, when you get really technical into the aspects and the orbs and the cusps and it never ends. It goes on and on and on. And I tell all of you watching out there, if you're practicing magic, if you're practicing metaphysics, please teach yourself a basic outline of astrology. You don't have to become, the world's best astrologer. But all magic is really, like, even modern day religious festivals by the leading brand religions, they still mark all of their calendar by astrology. They won't tell you that, but it is. And it's important to know how to work with the astrological bodies. Even in its most simplistic form, there's nothing wrong with that. It takes lifetimes to master astrology and study it. And that's why there's books. You're never expected to memorize all that stuff. It's there in books and volumes to reference. It's an art and a science. It's, you can be more flexible with it.
Yeah, I think learning the 12 signs, the characteristics of the 12 signs will get you very far. You can then look at someone's sun sign. If you can find out what their moon sign and what their rising sign are, you can know a lot about someone. And that's mostly what I do with, like, what I'm using on a day-to-day basis with clients is finding out someone's sun sign and the other person's sun sign. Okay, what are they going to confront? Are they overcoming obstacles, or is it easy breezy with them? And that can tell me a lot about the relationship too. Is it two fire signs getting together, or is it two water signs getting together, or is it a fire sign and a water sign getting together? Those things can kind of tell you quite a bit about a relationship, and all you have to know is the sun sign. So don't think that you have to become an astrology expert, but I think that there are ways that you can supplement, like if you're I never thought about it that way, but if you had somebody and you could see their entire chart and you saw that there was a weakness in some way, you could look at the the element of the herbs and bring those herbs in
Yeah.
to supplement or bring in some healing
What-
into a certain problem.
One of my
Yeah.
favorite herb books, it's simple. I bought it. I've been doing what I do, 300-400 years? So like about 200 years ago, again, in that magical time called the early 90s, I took my first trip up to Salem to go to the witches' balls up there with two friends of mine who were Cabots. And so, of course, we did the whole tour de force of Salem. And one of the things I came back with, and I still have right here in the cupboard to my left, right at my counter here at the shop, is Lori Cabot's Witches Herbal of Salem. A Salem Witches Herbal. It's, you know what, the front cover is so worn away now that it's the content inside that matters. And I fell in love with this because I liked her metaphysical science approach towards the listing of the herbs and the planets. And I have referred to this book over and over and over. That's why I keep it here under my essential oil shelf, because when I go to mix essential oils and mix herbs for clients, I need it right here to look at it. And so, you know, again, you don't need to memorize all that stuff. It's good to know it, teach yourself, study, but then, you know, just have your little notes handy so you can pop them out and refresh your memory.
Well, I'm looking over at the chat and they were telling me my earring was popping against my microphone the whole time. I'm so sorry, you guys. So hopefully it wasn't too annoying. So that's why I took off my earring. But I'm looking at the chat because it's time to do our reading, giveaway. And I want to count.
Wow.
Can you believe it? I know that the hour goes so fast. It goes so fast. So let me count how many people we have, and then I'm going to have you pick a number. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31. I think that's it. So between 1 and 31, including 1 and 31, what do you pick for your, who's going to be the lucky person?
Let's see. Well, let's be real witchy about it and go with lucky 13.
Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Tanya. Tanya's our winner. Okay, so a reading for Tanya. Do you just want to do a reading from her, or do you want Tanya to...
Do you have a specific question? I mean, maybe she...
Let's see if I can find her on the list here. Hold on. Is she even here? She is here. Tanya, do you want to go? Do you want to talk real quick, Tanya? Let me unmute you. Tanya? Hello?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Do you have a congratulations, you're the winner.
You.
Do you have a question you'd like to ask? A topic maybe?
My topic has been the same most recently, and it's love. So,
ooh, my favorite. Good.
All right.
So I'm 48, have never been married. All my kids are grown. So I want to be in a relationship.
You want the real thing.
The right relationship.
Okay.
All right, Tanya, are you ready?
I am.
Alrighty, do me one favor. I do this with everybody who sits in front of me. Close your eyes and just follow the simple meditation. We'll do it real quick. Take a comfortable deep breath in through your nose. Hold. Bring all your attention to the top of your head where your crown chakra is, and breathe out through your nose. And breathe in again. Hold. Clear your mind a little bit more, and bring all your attention to your third eye in the middle of your forehead. And breathe out through your nose. And breathe in one last time. Hold. Clear your mind completely, and bring all your attention to your heart chakra in the middle of your chest. But this time, hold your breath a little bit longer than comfortable. And when you can't hold it anymore, keep your eyes closed and breathe out through your nose. Let all the air escape your body. Let your chest collapse. When there's no air left, hold and constrict. When it becomes uncomfortable, hold one more moment, and finally breathe in through your nose. Open your eyes and let me know when you're ready.
I'm ready.
Ooh, you're good at meditation, aren't you? Most people can't get that far. All right.
I don't know if I'm that
Let
great.
us summon Venus, the goddess of love. There's an ancient Latin invocation that goes, Genetrix hominum divinumque voluptus ame vemos. And we'll count out 3 cards. And what the 3rd card says is the advice for the evening.
Okay.
In regards to your love life. Ooh, well, look at that. Well, if you can look at that, sorry that light is so bright.
Yeah.
It is the Queen of Cups.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what the issue is, isn't it? You're the Queen of Cups, aren't you? You love hard, you play hard, and you expect a certain level of respect that it seems hard for the lovers in your life to live up to. There's no particular mortal that can live up to this. So I would never tell you to lower your standards ever, but maybe just make a new wish list of what you're looking for in a lover. Because being the Queen of Cups here means you need to be treated like the queen you are. But at the same time, if you expect someone to just devoutly worship you, they're going to need to be shown some leeway when making mistakes. Now, one last thing before we wrap that up too. It seems to be that when the sun goes into Scorpio this year, at the end of October, you're going to be confronted with a relationship matter, but it may require a lot of compromise. If you stay somewhat stubborn, you might miss a good opportunity. So you'll have to let me know how that works out and fill me in later.
Wow, that's my birthday.
See, the cards never lie.
Thank you so much, Tanya. Thank you. All right, everybody. So before we go, we were talking earlier that you were gonna give the Spell Squad people a little special.
Yes, it is April. It is April 2020. And I know that we're all in a little bit of lockdown and looking for things to do at home. One of the jokes I made on my personal Facebook page yesterday was, you know what business is going to go out of business when this pandemic's over? Escape rooms. No one's ever going to pay to get stuck in a room to find their way out. We're doing that now. So while you're stuck in your personal escape rooms, you can go to AusetGypsy.com and book an appointment with me. Call me or text me to book the appointment. Don't pay for it there because I will give the Spell Squad 10% off a 30-minute or 60-minute tarot card reading.
Excellent.
And this will last until May 30th, 2020.
There's 31 days in May.
31, May 31st, 2020.
They're going to be like, I just missed it. Oh my gosh. Thank you, James. Thank you so much for being here. It was such a delight to have you on. We have to do this again sometime. There were so many questions that we didn't get to because we had so much good information to share. So we're going to have to do it again sometime.
Anytime you want. I love this. I wish we can do this every night.
I know. I want to thank you guys in the Spell Squad for being here and participating and being that. I think you got the most ever request to be doing a reading ever. I think that was a record breaker for most 30 people have never wanted to. This is like a big crowd with a great crowd here today.
I am flattered and blushing. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
So I want to thank you guys for being here and thank you guys for joining us today. Next week is Easter Sunday and I had anticipated I was going to be doing Easter things, but I think I'm going to take that week off anyway. And so I will see you the following week. So if you celebrate Easter, have a great Easter. And if you don't, have a great Sunday. And then we'll see you the following Sunday, which will be the 19th. And my guest will be Queen Shamula, who, oh my God, she's amazing. She has a really, really great podcast that she does. So you'll have to come and join me and Queen Shamula next week. She is New York. She is New York all the way. She is like so great. And, her show is awesome. And do you know her show? Do you know her?
Yes.
Yeah, when I listen to her show, I feel like I'm listening to nighttime radio in New York. That's what it feels like to me. She's so great. Anyway, so come and join me and Queen Shamula on the 19th. No Q&A next week. We're going to all be eating our chocolate Easter bunnies or chocolate Ostara bunnies or chocolate spring equinox bunnies, and having our candies and enjoying our families. So we'll see you in 2 weeks. Thank you so much, you guys. See you in 2 weeks, and have a beautiful, beautiful, blessed 2 weeks. And I'll see you then. Thank you again, James.
My pleasure. Thank you. Thank you,
All right.
Spell Squad. Ciao.
Bye.